That 16-year-old walking the runway at Fashion Week, she's likely tens of thousands of dollars in debt to her agency, and she may never earn enough to pay it off. The modeling industry projects an image of glamour and wealth, but behind the glossy magazine covers lies a system that many former insiders are now calling legalized trafficking. The global modeling industry is worth over $2.4 billion, with the top agencies representing thousands of young women and men who dream of becoming the next Gigi Hadid or Kendall Jenner. But after interviewing 47 former models, reviewing tons of actual agency contracts, and speaking with labor attorneys, I've uncovered a system of exploitation that's been normalized for decades. First, I'll reveal the predatory debt system that keeps models financially trapped even when they're walking for the biggest names in fashion. Second, I'll expose the dangerous and often illegal housing conditions that agencies force on young models.
Including modeling, and they fall prey to predators who promise them the moon, the sun, and the earth, fame and fortune.
Sign a contract, you're going to become famous, and you're going to make it. That image and the reality are, for the vast majority of people working in the industry, very different.
Many of whom are minors. And finally, I'll show you the shocking lack of financial transparency that allows agencies to steal millions from their own talent. What makes this especially disturbing is that most professional models begin their careers between the ages of 13 and 16. Children who are signing contracts their parents barely understand. By the end of this video, you'll understand why former model Victoire Doxer called the industry human trafficking with a veneer of glamour. Let's start with the most fundamental deception: how models actually get paid. When you see a model walking for Chanel or appearing on a Dior campaign, you might assume they're making thousands of dollars. The reality? Many are working simply to pay off debts to their agencies. Here's how the system works. When an agency signs a new model, often a teenager from outside the fashion capitals, they immediately begin charging for startup costs. These include professional photos for their portfolio, between $1,200 and $3,000. Comp cards, that's modeling resumes, between $500 and $800. Website placement fees, $300 to $500. Travel to fashion markets, $1,000 to $5,000. Housing in agency apartments, $1,500 to $4,000 per month. Before a model books a single job, they are often $10,000 to $15,000 in debt to their agency. I walked in 37 shows my first season in Paris and Milan. When I got my statement, not only had I not made any money, I somehow owed the agency another $3,000. It was devastating. What makes this system particularly insidious is that these debts are recouped through a process called debt collateralization, meaning the agency takes a percentage of all future earnings until the debt is paid. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. When young models arrive in New York, Paris, or Milan, they're typically placed in model apartments owned or managed by their agencies. The glossy exterior hides a troubling reality. Former models described apartments designed for 2 to 3 people that housed 8 to 12 models, with bunk beds in living rooms and models sleeping on couches or floors. One former model shared, "There were 8 of us in a 1-bedroom apartment in Milan. We had 1 bathroom and a tiny kitchen. The agency charged each of us €1,500 a month. That's €12,000 for an apartment that would normally rent for €2,000. This housing arrangement creates another debt trap. Models are charged premium rates for substandard accommodations, with the costs added directly to their growing agency debt. More concerning is that many of these models are minors, 14, 15, 16-year-old girls living without parental supervision in foreign countries. I was 15 when I was sent to Paris. There was no chaperone, no supervision. Adult men, photographers, agents, even random friends of the agency would come to our apartment at all hours. Looking back, it was incredibly dangerous. In most industries, this would violate child labor and housing laws, but the modeling industry operates in a regulatory gray area, with agencies classifying models as independent contractors rather than employees. This classification allows agencies to avoid responsibility for working conditions, minimum wage laws, and child labor protections. And this leads us to perhaps the most financially devastating practice. Even successful models who book major campaigns often find themselves unable to verify what they are actually owed. Agencies typically take 20% from the client and another 20% from the model, already a substantial cut. But former bookkeepers from major agencies have revealed systematic financial manipulation beyond these percentages. Models almost never see the actual client invoices. The agency tells them what they earned, and they have no way to verify it. We regularly inflated expenses and took additional percentages that weren't in the contracts. One model who appeared in a major cosmetics campaign was told the job paid $5,000. When she accidentally saw the actual invoice months later, the client had paid $20,000 for her services. This lack of financial transparency is industry-wide and systematic. A 2018 survey found that 87% of professional models reported discrepancies in their financial statements but had no means to verify or challenge them. Even more troubling is what happens to models who do speak up. When I asked to see the client invoices, my agency told me I was being difficult. 2 weeks later, they stopped sending me to castings. My career was effectively over because I asked to see what I was actually earning. This financial control extends to how models are paid. Many agencies withhold earnings for 60 to 90 days or longer, forcing models to request advances on their own money, which sometimes come with interest charges. The result is a system where even models appearing on magazine covers and major campaigns can be financially vulnerable. So, how has this system persisted for so long? First, there's the constant influx of young, naive talent. For every model who becomes aware of the exploitation, dozens more enter the system. Second, the glamour of the industry creates a powerful smokescreen. Models are taught that complaining about working conditions means they are ungrateful for their opportunity. Third, there's a concerning lack of regulation. While other entertainment industries have unions and labor protections, modeling remains largely unregulated. Some progress has been made. The Model Alliance, founded by former model Sarah Ziff, has pushed for the Fashion Workers Act in New York, which would create basic protections for models. But the major agencies have spent millions lobbying against these protections. The most disturbing aspect is how normalized this exploitation has become. Fashion magazines celebrate the industry while ignoring the human cost behind the images. The modeling industry sells a dream to young people around the world, but for most, the reality is a nightmare of debt, exploitation, and powerlessness. Remember, the first step to changing an exploitative system is exposing how it really works.